Let's start with, well, what is next for the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, ISIS, and also an amazing comment in The Atlantic magazine. We'll get to that in a few moments' time. Former Brigadier General Yossi Cooper, Director General of the Israeli Ministry of Strategic Affairs. He was formerly one of the heads of military intelligence in the IDF, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome to you.
Welcome. Thank you very much.
We're going to begin with a quotation. And by the way, there is a word here which is not, the language isn't that bad, but be warned. Jeffrey Goldberg, a highly respected journalist, writing in The Atlantic. The other day, I was talking to a senior Obama administration official about the foreign leader who seems to frustrate the White House and the State Department the most. Quote, the thing about Bibi, that's a nickname for Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister. The thing about Bibi is he's a chicken shit, this official said, referring to the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, by his nickname. Benjamin Netanyahu was a member of an elite unit of the Israeli army. He's a very brave and courageous man. Barack Obama has never seen military service. But look, it's a stupid thing to say. It's an insulting thing to say. They don't say that about other foreign leaders. Why do they feel they can insult the Prime Minister of Israel?
Well, you have to ask them, I don't know. But of course, the name of the person who said it is not in the article, so I cannot say. But
Jeffrey Goldberg is a highly respected journalist. I don't doubt him.
Jeffrey Goldberg is a highly respected journalist for sure. Well, I think that there are expectations by the Americans for some movement on both sides, the Palestinians and the Israelis, towards progress in the peace process. And some of these expectations are not fulfilled, and this causes probably some sort of frustration. That's, in my mind, the reason why they show some sort of unease and interest in pushing the sides forward. That's, in my mind, the case.
He doesn't call Abbas that. I've never heard anyone in the State Department use such language about certain Arab leaders, even if it might be justified. And it's a crass and gross thing to say. And you know far more than I could ever know about how diplomacy works and how the minister is in Jerusalem work. There's going to be a reaction to this.
I don't know if there's going to be a reaction. There is some tension recently because there is an assessment that actually what the government is doing is because of a pressure from the right wing and so on and so forth. This is not the problem. The problem with our relations with the Palestinians is very simple, and people should focus on that. And I think the Americans already also realize that this is the problem, even though they don't put it in the spotlight as much as we do. And the problem is very simple. The Palestinians do not want to accept Israel as the nation state of the Jewish people. That's the main reason why we don't make progress on the peace process. They don't want that, and they are not ready to accept any kind of security arrangements that in the context of an agreement would make Israel feel secure. These are the two problems. And unfortunately, we can look at many other issues that are there and on which we don't have it's very difficult to move and reach an agreement. But the real problem is that the Palestinians still, even today, do not accept that there is a Jewish people at all, do not accept that there is any historical connection between the Jewish so-called people that doesn't exist and the land of Israel, Eretz Israel, as we call it, believe and tell their children and actually brainwash them that the Jews are terrible and the Zionists are even worse and the settlers are the most terrible creatures on earth, and legitimize any kind of struggle against the Jews in Israel, be it terrorism or be it what they call popular resistance, which means the use of force without using firearms, and be it political struggle against Israel, trying to delegitimize it and try to portray it as a pariah and a war criminal and all of that. This is the problem. This is why the Palestinians prefer not to make progress in the negotiations, avoid negotiations, because they know in negotiations they're going to be demanded to accept Israel as a Jewish state. In negotiations they would have to agree to some kind of security arrangements that would make Israel feel safe. And these are two things that are totally refusing even to hear about. That's why when President Obama presented to President Abbas his suggestion of the framework that would enable the continuation of the peace talks back in March 17th, he never got an answer because probably Abbas understood that if he makes progress, it would mean that he would have to touch those two sensitive issues. And when he came back to Ramallah from this famous meeting with President Obama, his only message to his people was, I didn't touch the deposit. Which every Palestinian understood. I didn't make anything regarding recognizing the fact that there is a Jewish people. I didn't make any step in recognizing that the Jews have a right to a state of their own. So we are stuck in a situation where we accept that the Palestinians should have a state of their own because they are a people. We have to discuss how exactly, where exactly, what arrangement should enable it, and they do not reciprocate.
Then how do you move forward? The context here, America still does back Israel, not with the enthusiasm that other administrations have, probably with less enthusiasm than almost any other administration has, at least since the 1960s. But if the Palestinian people, whatever their leadership, I mean, some of the people within the Palestinian world obviously do want reform, but their leadership, even the allegedly moderate part of their leadership, if they don't want to recognize the Jewish people in the Jewish state, how do you move forward? You can't move forward with one partner. What happens next?
I think the most important thing is two things have to happen simultaneously. The most important thing is to change the way the Palestinians educate their children. And because the entire education of the Palestinians is such that would eternalize this psychological infrastructure that...
But how do you do that? You would have to take personal charge, well, not personal, as a country, you would have to dominate the education system of the Palestinian people.
No,
they wouldn't allow that.
Much simpler than that.
Really?
Yes, because the entire Palestinian education system and the media system and everything is being financed by the international community, by the United States and by the Europeans. And if the Europeans and the Americans would tell the Palestinians, this is unacceptable, you cannot teach your children to hate the Jews, you cannot teach your children to kill the Jews, you cannot teach your children a story that says that there is no Jewish people, you have to change that. If they realize that this has to stop, and by the way, President Obama has mentioned this issue more than one time. So it's, if this is the message to the Palestinians that this has to change, they may change it. In my mind, they may change it. And so this is one avenue that we have to walk in. And the other is to try to mobilize the rest of the moderate or pragmatic Arab world to put some pressure on the Palestinians to do the same thing. Because for the Arabs, what happens is that their cooperation with the Americans, their cooperation with us, is today dependent on some progress on the Palestinian issue, which is a problem for them because they want to move forward and they don't want to be totally dependent on this issue. So we believe that if we work together with the other pragmatic states in the Middle East, that see the situation in the Middle East very similar to us. They want to fight ISIS, they want to fight radicalism, they want to fight Iran.
You're probably more optimistic than I am, but you know far more than I do, so you win. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.